the United States planning to designate the Venezuelan Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. This cartel is headed by Nicolas Maduro and other high-ranking people in his regime. How does this move tighten President Trump's crackdown on narco-terrorism against the United States? Joining me now to discuss these latest developments is Taylor Hathorn. She's a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum Center for American Safety and Security. Taylor, great to have you with us.
Happy to be here, Steve.
So this is big news. The United States designating Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization on November 24th. How significant is this? And talk to us about the threat that Nicolas Maduro poses through this cartel.
Well, this is incredibly significant because these cartels are wreaking havoc on American people. There's no surprise, or it should not come to a surprise for many Americans, that over 100,000 Americans are killed because of drugs in our nation alone. And so this is an incredibly important move by the president. This is also very reflective of the danger of Maduro's regime in Latin America and directly threatening to the United States.
Are you surprised by some elected officials in the United States that are calling into question the legitimacy of some of these strikes?
I wish I could say yes, but it seems to be that anything that President Trump does is something that is sinful in nature, and I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. Senator Warner said not too long ago that the Biden administration actually wasn't tough enough on Maduro's regime, so I think that this should be a bipartisan issue. This is something that we should all come together and say that the drugs that are coming into the United States, the illegal human trafficking that's taking place, the humanitarian crisis that's taking place is not something that we as the United States should support.
That's coming from the Democratic ranking member on the Senate Intel Committee. What does the United States do you think, need to do to further crack down on drug trafficking, especially once now that this cartel is considered a foreign terrorist organization?
Well, truthfully, this is a bigger conversation than just about Venezuela. This is about Mexico, too. The majority of fentanyl comes through Mexico. So Venezuela is a huge proponent of that trafficking that's taking place, but we need to be looking at this from a larger scale. And really, the conversation needs to be had about China, too. What is China's role in shipping in precursor chemicals into the United States? What is China's role in Venezuela? What is China's role in Latin America? And what are they doing strategically to undermine the United States?
Speaking of China, the FBI director, Kash Patel, just coming back, they're somewhat optimistic about the meeting with CCP officials that they will curb the illicit exporting of fentanyl. Are you as confident?
I'm not. I think that the CCP and the PLA will say whatever they need to say to develop stronger relationships in the United States, but they're not backpedaling on any of the major cybersecurity infrastructure attacks that they're doing on the United States. So I don't think that you can sit there and believe everything that's coming out of their mouth. I mean, the FBI's own report states that 1,300% increase in intel and cyber-related crimes against the United States from PLA and the CCP. So the data doesn't lie.
And we know that China is notorious for playing the long game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we have taken our foot off the pedal, especially in places like South America. And we've been like, it's fine, we're going to focus on the Middle East. China has done this really broadband approach to everything that they're doing. Look what they're doing with the Belt and Road Initiative in Africa. Look at what they're trying to do in Greenland. Look at what they're doing in Canada, in Mexico, and Latin America. And they are not releasing their footprint. And I think the United States needs to really wake up and understand that they are our adversary. And if we cannot call them that and we placate to them, we will end up losing in the end.
That's an excellent point. Speaking of China, can we read the U.S. actions taken around Venezuela as part of a strategy, perhaps, to weaken China? And what kind of threat does Chinese influence in that region, in South America, Central and South America, pose to us?
It's multifaceted. I mean, Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, and so they have the resources, and China knows that. China's looking at them going, well, if you can't support your own regime, we'll come in and support it. We'll do it silently, but we will expand our approach. But it's also a bigger thing because China is looking at space-based programs. So the closer you are to the equator, the better it is for space-based launches. China has shown that they are really upping their game in space, and so they want as much access to the equator and to Latin America as they can, which is, I believe, a big reason why they were such a heavy presence in Africa doing the same exact thing. So I think it's a multifaceted approach.
Talk to us about, we were talking about this before we came on, the fallout between Japan and China deepening. This is after that CCP official called for the Japanese Prime Minister to be beheaded for saying Japan would defend Taiwan. What do you think this ultimately reveals about the CCP's true nature?
Before I talk about the CCP's true nature, which I think should be obvious to many Americans, especially people who care enough to tune into NTD, I want to applaud the United States and Japan for the efforts that they have made in diplomatic relations over the last 100 years. I don't think anyone 100 years ago would have thought that we would be where we are at now, where Japan is actually the #1 investor in the United States. So to know that a nation and their companies are investing so heavily in a nation that they fought pretty heavily at war with, I think is pretty impressive and shows a lot about the relationship that we have. The new prime minister coming in is a great reflection of progress that Japan has and the direction that they're wanting to go. And I think that we should support any nation that's going to hold the democratic values that we hold, that are going to support people the way that we try to support people. So I think that the CCP has not changed their stripes. They're going to be the same kind of tiger through and through. So the fact that they're calling from their senior public officials to have other people's heads beheaded is not a surprise to me. It's just reflective of the regime as a whole.
You have some background in cybersecurity, quite extensive. I want to get your take on the company Alibaba. This is the Chinese e-commerce giant that's now facing accusations of sharing customer data, American customer data. What does this say about our own vulnerabilities when it comes to the Chinese military and the scale that it could be?
Talking to me about that is like opening up a wormhole. All of my girlfriends that use TikTok constantly, I'm like, please let me talk you out of this, and here is why. I think that companies like Alibaba, who definitely steal United States customer information, they use our IP addresses, they use our Wi-Fi addresses, they steal back-end data, they do tracking. All of this really should allow Americans to understand and wake up that China is looking at a multi-pronged war approach. This is not just about boots on the ground. This is about weakening our cybersecurity infrastructure and our networks so that if there is military involvement in the future, they've already got their claws in us through private industry. And so I think the United States government, along with private companies, really need to look at the relationships that we're having, who we allow to do business in the United States, and if an adversarial company that cannot distance themselves from the CCP and the PLA, they don't need to be doing business in the United States with United States customers, and that's really important.
Taylor Hathorn, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Of course.